What a fun week it is. It's Duke in North Carolina, a big-time week in the Hoop State. We're going to talk about it with our good pal, Jason Jordan, and talk a little Duke basketball recruiting as well, coming up today here on Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's great to be here with you today. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to our podcast for free wherever you get your podcasts. This show is posted each and every day on every podcast platform. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Blue Devils and follow me on Twitter at _JJ_Jackson_. On today's show, I'm so excited to bring on my really good pal, Jason Jordan, Locked On's official recruiting extraordinaire. He's the expert, all things recruiting, and we're going to talk a lot about Duke basketball here on today's show. Of course, these segments are always brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn, the official college football and college basketball recruiting sponsor across our network. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Without further ado, Jason Jordan is here with us. Hey, man, how are you?
Good. How are you, man? Good to be here.
Glad doing very well, and glad that you are here on the program. I want to talk about Duke basketball as they continue to get set for a big game coming up this weekend. What a rivalry it is always between Duke and UNC. We were talking beforehand. It's already here, man. All of a sudden, it snuck back up on us.
That's crazy. I was. I looked up the other day. I was like, "Oh, is that Saturday?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, it's always fun, and I'm right here on Tobacco Road. So
right.
I always like to go around on game day just to see the trash talk.
Yeah, as you should. Yeah, no, you got to rep your school colors. That's for sure. On days like this, you and I, both natives of the state of North Carolina, we know how much this game means to the state. It also just means a whole lot to college basketball. People all across the world are going to be watching this game coming up on Saturday night. It's the first game since the Final Four matchup, which was the first time, of course, these schools ever met in the NCAA tournament. The last time the Tar Heels were in Cameron Indoor Stadium, it didn't end favorably in Coach K's send-off. So we've got tons of storylines going into this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And, obviously they're going to probably use that as a, some motivation. I'm sure Scheyer will remind the team about how that went last year. I mean, oof, man, I was talking about that the other day, that game, and to lose in that way, that's tough. You got to think that there's some locker bulletin board material definitely being made up right now.
No doubt. I mean, look, Jon Scheyer, it is his first installment as the head coach in this rivalry. Of course, he would fill in from Coach K from time to time over the last few years. K was always good and ready to go for those UNC games, though, so he's never had a role as the acting head coach in this capacity against the Tar Heels. Had many great games against them in his playing career. Do you think Jon Scheyer's ready for a moment like this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's tailor-made for these moments. I mean, he's been a part of them on staff, and people give him flack for not being a head coach, but he's been there. It is different when the buck stops with you. He's feeling it right now. But I think he's primed for it. He's one of the coolest guys I know in the profession, so I think he'll be able to handle it.
So excited to see kind of what this installment looks like this year with Scheyer on one sideline, Hubert Davis on the other. Saw Hubert a little bit a year ago, but we don't have these iconic Hall of Famers. Maybe these will be our next good coaches on both sidelines in this storied rivalry.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, Hubert had a pretty good year last year. I think he won one or two games at the end.
Unfortunately so.
Yeah, Scheyer's, obviously on the right track. I mean, they've hit a non-Duke like skid, but I think, this week will tell a lot.
It will. It absolutely will. We'll see what happens on Saturday. Also, for storylines in this game in particular, there are always plenty. Over the last several years, you've got Duke freshmen having the bright lights, getting their first chance to play in a rivalry like this.
Yeah.
For North Carolina, though, they're led by a couple of players that are no strangers to this rivalry when you look at how much experience they've got back and knowing that they've played in big games like this against Duke.
Yeah, I mean, Mondo, Baycoat, Leakey. I mean, that's rough. Experience matters in everything in life, but it certainly matters in college basketball and in sports. And so, you would probably have to, if you're tipping it somewhere, you probably lean to the experience. I know you guys are gonna push mute right now, but but it's got. I mean, at the end of the day, the talent is there, and you hope everybody's healthy enough to play. Dereck. So, that's what we want to see. I want to see everybody healthy enough to play, and let's just roll it out and see what happens.
So with this game in particular, and with North Carolina talking about the experience at that guard spot, Caleb Love is now in his junior season from St. Louis, of course. He's playing for JT's Pops. He's got the Duke connection, so to speak. And the internet this week, Jason, is reminding plenty of folks that junior guard spot went to Jeremy Roach for the Blue Devils instead of Caleb Love, and that Caleb Love is averaging 20-plus points per game in his career against the Duke. He lives for moments like these. When you look back to sort of this matchup of junior guards and the decision for both of these coaching staffs to get Caleb Love and Jeremy Roach from the recruiting perspective, what comes to mind? What memories do you have? What thoughts do you have on this matter? Because the internet's talking about this matchup a lot this week.
Yeah, the funny thing is in that class, Duke was pretty fixed on Jeremy Roach.
Right.
I mean, they were, trust me, they were before he committed. I mean, he was their guy. Like it was pretty much Jeremy or bust. Like we were throwing the kitchen. We're all in for Jeremy, and I don't think they really looked outside of that because I know for a fact there were other point guards that were like, hey, I mean, I'm down. And they were like, not Jeremy Roach, and and he obviously he's turned out to be a really good player for them. Caleb Love definitely plays with a chip on his shoulder, whether he admits it or not. When he comes against Duke, so that certainly will be the case again. I'm sure Duke fans hope that he's going to be shooting blanks because Caleb can shoot blanks. They're going to be hungry both ways. And I know Jeremy will bring it because he's been consistently bringing it since the end of last year and on into this year.
Going to be so much fun on Saturday night from inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke basketball taking on North Carolina. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment after our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by FanDuel. This is the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner because they're number one in America. If you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid for your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jason Jordan. Follow him on Twitter at JasonNCJordan. He's Locked On's official recruiting insider. So we're talking about the future of Duke basketball in games like this. It's always set to be a big recruiting weekend for both of these schools when it comes to Duke and UNC. And I would imagine over the years, Jason, that's always been one of the first things you want to figure out from both of these coaches at both venues. Like, who do you want to be at a game like this? Yeah. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I usually start trying to identify the list around Wednesday or Thursday. They got a game earlier in the week, so you kind of let them do that. And then
right.
Wednesday, Thursday, you try and get the finalists. But there's always somebody that comes on Saturday morning. So true story. Like there's always like, we got a ticket. Come on down. Bring you and your dad. Come on down and stuff like that. So that's always fun trying to figure out who's coming and because the fans, you guys are very creative, so I know that they're always looking to get their signs ready and their chants ready and stuff like that.
Yeah, trying to find every way possible to get set for future Blue Devils. It looks like the 2023 class, as we well know, is set in stone. Players have signed their letter of intents. And then in 2024, slower momentum right now for Duke basketball. Darren Harris is the lone commitment right now for the Blue Devils. Maybe it seems as though, Jason, and I want you to speak to this, is Jon Scheyer assuming a lot of the players on the current roster will be there for a few years and not feeling as much pressure to go out and continue to build that 2024 class? Or what's the reason for this?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we had this conversation the other day with a couple NBA guys, and it's like, yeah, man, you nothing is definite. Nothing is definite, and maybe you thought certain guys were not going to be there. Maybe you even thought they were going to be, not even shoo-ins to be shaking Adam Silver's hand. But you look at it, and on the court, the numbers ain't adding up.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to, stay in college. So yeah, I do think that is absolutely factoring in. But they did make the final list for Dylan Harper. I think that recently came out. So he's Duke, Rutgers, Indiana, Kansas, and Auburn, I think, are his final five. And Duke's in really good position there. So I know that they're throwing it all at Dylan Harper. And so I think they're in good position at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of the big name that people want to talk about is Dylan Harper possibly teaming up and playing for Duke. Again, that's still a few years away because we've still got this 2023 class with five players. That's a very good class. And three of them were able to earn McDonald's All-American honors this past week, Jason.
Should have been four. I mean, TJ wasn't eligible.
Right. Explain that to us.
Yeah, so he's a fifth-year senior. So, and
if people didn't know, okay,
yeah, that's the only reason he's not in the game. We're straight off talent and where he's at ranked in the class. He's absolutely has his jersey printed and he's in the 3-point contest right now. So really, other than that, Duke should have had five. Caleb Foster averaged 30 points a game at Peach Jam. Whoever doesn't know, Nike Peach Jam is widely regarded. When I say widely, I mean like 98% of the people that follow recruiting know that Peach Jam is the most premier tournament of the summer. And I'm talking about on planet Earth for that age group. It's not Adidas. Respectfully, Adidas. Love you guys. Adidas, Under Armour, they know they're playing second and third. Nike EYBL, which is Peach Jam, the culmination is Peach Jam, is the premier event. And so at the Nike Peach Jam, where everybody who's anybody plays, Caleb Foster absolutely put on one of the greatest offensive performances I've ever seen, averaging around 30 points a game. Did I say 30? I watched him do it, and so for him not to be in the game it's weird. There's no way else to put it. He absolutely got snubbed. He's at the top of my snub list. I have a couple other guys that are on that list, but he's definitely on top. So unfortunate for him, but I'm sure he'll use it as fire and he'll just be more hungry when he gets to Durham next year.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit because Duke fans love talking about Caleb Foster and the fact that he's not there. The other players in the class, the three that did make it, Sean Stewart, Jared McCain, Mackenzie Mbako, all advocating for the fact that, hey, we need to get Caleb Foster there for the McDonald's All-American game. Yeah. He just didn't quite get that honor. With that being said, though, people want to point to someone like Bronny James, right, that gets this opportunity, and that is a whole different basket to kind of jump in. Also, there's the East and West dynamic that comes into play. Is that a big factor, like geographically, where all these players are located, or how exactly does that work, Jason? Explain this to us.
Yeah, no, I don't understand how they put certain people on the West. I mean, they got a Georgia kid on the West, right? Like what?
What? I didn't realize that.
Wow. I don't know why they do that. Like I don't know how they come up with this stuff. That's a great question. I mean, I need to ask them this here in Houston. I mean, I sit there, talk to them all the time. I should ask them that. But when it comes to Bronny James, think he's a really good player. He's definitely grown over the last 6 months. He had a really solid summer. And I definitely think he has a bright future. Now that out of the way, he's not supposed to be in the game. Like, his dad is LeBron, and I understand from a marketing standpoint, and I understand TV and all that stuff. I understand the shots of the sideline shots during the game, or that would be money. But that shouldn't be.
Sure.
Not to say no. Now LeBron is no scrub. Now I'm not saying that. Don't make me extreme, but he's not supposed to be there over Caleb Foster. He's not supposed to be there over Layden Blocker. He's not supposed to be there over a couple other guys, but those two are the ones that jump out. It's Simeon Wilcher. I mean, no.
Right.
I mean, because at the end of the day, it's all about what you do against other elite players who are of your same vein, and those guys dominated other elite players. They just did, But it's the way the world works, and the only thing they'd be able to do is use it as fuel for the next season.
And that's what Caleb Foster can do. And I know that that's what Duke is certainly hoping for. It'd be awesome to get them there. Duke continues to extend their lead that they've got all time with these McDonald's All-Americans, and would have been awesome to get 4, but they'll have to settle with 3. The 3 that are going are still pretty damn good basketball players, Jason.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun to watch those guys in the event.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared McCain, Mbako, and man, who am I?
Sean Stewart.
Sean, don't get mad at me. But they're going to be, they'll give you a lot. I mean, not that you're going to forget the Caleb Foster, but they're going to put on a show. Jared McCain's always great to watch. The way he, his offensive prowess, and Mbako does everything well. Sean Stewart has never met a dunk that he didn't like. So those guys are definitely going to put on a show for Duke, and they'll be well represented. Certainly in the game.
I love it. Let's take our final timeout here on today's show. We'll wind down our conversation with Jason Jordan when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in a moment. Locked On is heading to the Senior Bowl. We've been there all week long, and you can get insight analysis from the hosts that covered the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards these players will be climbing all in one location. Please make sure that you subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows this week from the Senior Bowl. Locked On NFL Draft, available wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back into today's edition of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jason Jordan. He is Locked On's college basketball recruiting insider. This, of course, brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. We take a look at Duke basketball this season. An injury scare for Dereck Whitehead a week ago for the Blue Devils. I've talked a lot about that. Don't want to go back down that rabbit hole, Jason. But I will say, from the freshman perspective, Filipowski has now had 7 total weeks as the ACC Freshman of the Year. And more importantly, after Saturday's game against Georgia Tech, it feels as though Dereck Lively II is getting more and more comfortable out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good to see that he's starting to come on a little stronger. You knew it would happen. I mean, he's too good to be at, the reality is, I mean, the hard truth is he just hadn't been very productive. And but at some point it's going to click. And I mean, I know the fans are like, yes, if it's got to click in February, yeah, come on, make it click in February.
Better late than never.
Yeah, it's all about how you finish, not how you start. Not to be cliche, but it's the truth. And it seems like he's starting to turn the corner. So that's definitely a positive thing.
Well, it is all about how you finish as opposed to how you start. However, I do want to finish the same way that we started, talking a little bit more about Duke and UNC. Big week here in the state. Your earliest memories of the Duke-UNC rivalry, Jason, what do you got? Take us back in the time machine. Put a smile on some people's faces. What games come to mind when you think back to the storied rivalry?
Oh, man, so many. I remember you guys will love this. Gerald, I remember the Gerald Henderson elbow.
That was epic.
Wow, what happened right there? I was there front and center when Duke beat the entire life out of Carolina at Cameron. They dragged them by like 25. That was a super interesting game because it was like you're up 25, but it was deafening. It might have been the loudest I've ever heard Cameron. And they're up 25. The game was never in doubt. And Scheyer was out there.
Scheyer was on the team, yeah. Nolan Smith had some big plays, yeah.
Smith, they were out there killing. Man,
the shot.
So many different ones. What'd you say?
The Austin Rivers shot. I mean, of course.
Definitely the Austin Rivers shot. Definitely the Austin Rivers shot. Trey Jones, the putback, that was crazy. The intentional miss. But the Austin Rivers shot, yeah, that was different. That was different because that's so Austin. You know, as soon as they missed and he got the ball, I was like, he's definitely going to shoot it. The only question is he going to get past half court before he shoots it?
Right.
Austin he was like, nobody else. Do not call for the ball. You're not getting it. Don't play yourself.
What a strange game that was. A late comeback from Duke. Seth Curry hit a couple of big shots down the stretch. Tyler Zeller for UNC took the basket back into, Duke's net for a couple of Blue Devil points there. And then, Austin Rivers had Andre Dawkins in one corner, Seth Curry in another, open and ready to take the last shot. And Sub-Zero said, I think I can handle this myself.
Yeah, he took care of that. I remember the Zion Williamson game too. That wasn't, and it was like, I remember there was the biggest ticket in town, and we were there, and Barack Obama was there. Everybody.
As soon as Obama walks in,
it was
that's different.
It was the greatest setting, and then it wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be.
Still can't believe that happened. That's just wild. Yeah, I know, for real. Glad to see he was able to get back in the ACC tournament against UNC and get right against them one good time there. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a fun week. It's going to be a great weekend. Duke and UNC, you're in the hoop state, Jason, and I want everybody to continue to love you, so I won't make you pick one side over the other for this upcoming weekend. But as always, thanks again for the time here on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's my good pal Jason Jordan joining us here on Locked On Blue Devils. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.